chair lays before the House a communication from the Speaker.
The Speaker's Rooms, Washington, D.C., November 18th, 2025. I hereby appoint the Honorable David J. Taylor to act as Speaker pro tempore on this day. Signed, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Pursuant to the order of the House of January 3rd, 2025, the chair will now recognize members from lists submitted by the majority and minority leaders for morning hour debate. The chair will alternate recognition between the parties with time equally allocated between the parties and each member other than the majority and minority leaders and the minority whip, limited to 5 minutes, but in no event shall debate continue beyond 11:50 a.m. The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from California, Ms. Barragan, for 5 minutes.
That's a little much. I rise today to honor Dr. Thomas A. Parham, president of California State University, Dominguez Hills, as he retires after an extraordinary career in higher education. Affectionately known as Dr. P, he's been a visionary leader at Cal State Dominguez Hills since 2018, elevating academic excellence, expanding opportunity, and strengthening community partnerships across the South Bay and beyond. Dr. Parham has inspired generations of students through his commitment to equity, empowerment, and educational success. Under his leadership, California State University Dominguez Hills has become more than a university. It's been a launching pad for dreams, empowering students to succeed academically and personally. As he embarks on his well-deserved retirement, his legacy will continue to uplift the Toro community and the broader higher education landscape for years to come. On behalf of California's 44th District, I congratulate Dr. Parham and wish him continued success, happiness, and fulfillment in his next chapter. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to remember the life and legacy of an environmental champion in my district, Jesse Marquez. Jesse was a passionate leader who fought tirelessly for environmental justice. As a student at Banning High School in Wilmington, California, he was a record-setting track athlete. Tragically, disaster struck his neighborhood when explosions occurred at a refinery across the street from his family's home. Fortunately, Jesse survived the fatal incident, which injured over 150 neighbors. It led him to establish the Coalition for a Safe Environment in 2021, a community-based organization that successfully advocated for stronger rules to protect residents from pollution and chemical disasters. He also established the first community-led air monitor network in Wilmington, California, and he successfully prevented the expansion of highways and rail yards next to homes and schools. Gracias, Jesse, for your tireless advocacy for safer, healthier communities. Rest in power. Mr. Speaker, Republicans in Congress shut the government down for 43 days to avoid spending $1 on health care for hardworking Americans. And when they finally voted for a partisan spending bill, it lined the pockets of 8 Republican senators with millions of dollars in taxpayer funds. This is corruption, plain and simple. If anyone else in government gave themselves millions of dollars in taxpayer money, they would go to prison. It also speaks to the misplaced priorities of Republicans who cannot be bothered to support affordable health care for Americans. But they can find money to reward senators over taxpayers. Senators may not like to be treated like everybody else, but subpoenas and non-disclosure orders are a routine part of grand jury investigations. No one has an absolute right to be notified that their call records have been subpoenaed. And no senator should have guaranteed right to self-deal themselves $1 million if a lawful search happens. Now the American people may hear House Republicans say they will pass a bill this week to undo what they voted for on last week, but talk is cheap. They could have stopped this corrupt provision before it became law, and they didn't. That was the action they took. It's now the law. And unless the Senate is going to take it up on whatever the House passes, if it does, the vote this week will have all been for show. It's to save face, but it doesn't save taxpayers a dime from the payday coming to Senate Republicans. The Republican senator from South Carolina said he is already preparing to sue so he can cash in. Republicans did this same time they threw out Americans off of their health care. Imagine that, doing this at the very same time. While Republicans take away the life-saving care you need and deserve, they are getting rich with your hard-earned tax dollars. House Democrats will keep fighting to protect your health care and make life more affordable. I yield back.
Members are reminded to refrain from engaging in personalities toward the Senate or individual members of the Senate. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Nebraska, Mr. Bacon, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to recognize Lisa Yanni Roskins, a true leader whose vision, dedication, and compassion have touched the lives of tens of thousands of military families and veterans across our nation. As the Chief Executive Officer of Burlington Capital, Lisa has spearheaded initiatives focused on affordable housing for veterans, contributing to programs designed to help individuals break the cycle of poverty and lead healthy, productive lives. Lisa embodies what it means to lead with both intellect and heart. A proud graduate of Stanford University, where she earned her bachelor's degree and Juris Doctorate, Lisa brings not only deep business acumen, but also a strong sense of service and purpose. She has guided Burlington Capital to become a national model for purpose-driven investment. The company demonstrates that you can achieve financial success while positively impacting communities and transforming lives. Under Lisa's leadership, Burlington Capital has made an extraordinary commitment to those who serve the United States of America, both active duty service members and the veterans who have sacrificed for our freedom. Her belief has always been simple yet powerful, that the people who defend our nation deserve quality homes, supportive communities, and a true sense of belonging. One of those most outstanding examples of this commitment is at Offutt Air Force Base in Bellevue, Nebraska. There, Burlington Capital partnered with the United States Air Force to redevelop and manage the base's military family housing community. Through a long-term public-private partnership, Lisa and her team delivered $240 million in redevelopment that transformed outdated housing into modern neighborhoods and where military families can thrive. The results speak for themselves. Nearly 2,000 obsolete units were replaced. Hundreds more were renovated, and new homes were built to meet the needs of today's airmen and their families. The community, now known as Rising View, was recognized for its strong partnership, its service to tens of thousands of families, and its unwavering commitment to quality of life for those in uniform. But Lisa's impact doesn't end there. She saw another pressing need in our community, the need to provide housing and stability for our nation's veterans, especially those who faced homelessness. In 2013, Lisa and Burlington Capital partnered with the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs to create Victory One Apartments, a community built on part of the former St. Joseph Hospital site. It provides 90 permanent supportive housing units for formerly homeless veterans. This project was more than a renovation. It was the creation of a lifeline for men and women who once protected our nation but returned home to uncertainty. Building on that success, Lisa led the charge for Victory 2 Apartments, which opened in 2020. The second phase added 60 more apartment homes dedicated to veterans and their families who earn at or below 50% of this area's median income. These homes were designated with dignity in mind, paired with access to health, wellness, and job readiness services. Together, Victory 1 and 2 provide 150 safe, stable homes for men and women who once wore our nation's uniform. The apartments offer not only a safe place to live, but also access to on-site supportive services from the VA and local agencies, helping veterans rebuild their lives with dignity and purpose. Victory Apartments earn national recognition, receiving the Charles L. Edson Tax Credit Excellence Awards for outstanding affordable housing that serves special needs populations. And just as importantly, it's become a model for how public, private, and nonprofit sectors can come together to change lives. Lisa expanded that vision even further with the creation of the Victory Park in Lincoln, Nebraska. On the VA campus, Burlington Capital developed 70 new apartments for veterans and partnered with the VA to deliver a new community-based outpatient clinic for Lincoln's veteran population. Victory Park combines housing, healthcare, supportive services in one location, a community that restores independence, connection, and pride for those who once served our nation. Through efforts like these, Lisa Roskins has demonstrated that what it means to not only be a successful business leader, but also somebody that deeply committed to making a difference in the communities where her organization operates. With that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Rhode Island, Mr. Magaziner, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 months of delay, I rise today to recognize an important victory for the United States and for thousands of children around the world who have a new chance at life. Finally, after months of advocacy and struggle, funding has been restored for global emergency food aid for children. You see, malnutrition is the #1 cause of death for children under 5 globally. And when children are on the brink of starvation, their organs break down, and they cannot even digest food if it is given to them. But there is a proven treatment, ready-to-use therapeutic food, also known as Plumpy Nut. A shelf-stable peanut paste, doesn't need to be refrigerated, you don't need to add water, and it has the nutrients that children need to survive and grow back from the brink of starvation. Adesia Nutrition in North Kingstown, Rhode Island is one of the 2 organizations that manufacture Plumpy Nut. And since their founding, they have saved over 25 million lives. Earlier this year in January, funding for Plumpy Nut was cut off by President Trump's DOGE initiative. New federal orders were halted, production ground to a halt, and boxes of life-saving food aid sat in warehouses while children starved to death. This is not just cruel, it was short-sighted. America's reputation as a global leader suffers when we fail to deliver international aid. And our adversaries, China, Russia, terrorist organizations, fill the abyss when the United States pulls out. But a broad coalition of Americans fought back. In April, I made a commitment that I would speak on this floor every legislative day until funding was restored. I ended up speaking here 42 times in total to demand that emergency food aid for children be restored. And I wasn't alone. My colleague from Rhode Island, Representative Amo, made his voice heard on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Representative Austin Scott from Georgia, whose district hosts the other organization that manufactures Plumpy Nut, was a vital partner. And of course, Naven Salem, the CEO of Adesia, never gave up her mission to help starving kids in need. Last month, the administration finally listened, and the program was restored. A few weeks ago, Adesia was able to resume regular shipments. I was there at the loading dock in North Kingstown, Rhode Island, when the first new shipments went out, bound for children whose small bodies were struggling on the edge of starvation and who now have a chance to survive and grow. I will never forget that moment. This is proof that even in these challenging times, it is possible to get good things done. This victory wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the advocacy of people at all levels, all across the country, making their voices heard. It is a monumental step toward restoring the moral standing of the United States abroad and for saving countless lives. And while I am very glad that this program is restored and Adesia is up and running again and funding for food aid is back, none of this should have ever happened. Make no mistake, children died needlessly because President Trump and an unelected tech billionaire cut off their supply of food before eventually reversing course. This is a lesson in the devastating consequences of the chaotic slash and burn style of government that we have seen too much of over the last year. But nevertheless, today is a day for celebration, as Americans came together to do the right thing, to advocate for those who couldn't advocate for themselves, and to deliver a victory for countless children around the world who now have a chance to grow and thrive. I yield back.
Gentleman yields. The chair recognizes the gentleman from New York, Mr. Kennedy, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today with both gratitude and a heavy heart to honor the extraordinary life of a dear friend, a devoted public servant, and a guardian of our community, former Buffalo Police Commissioner Rocco J. Dina, who passed away on October 5th at the age of 75. Commissioner Dina was a pillar of Western New York, a man whose leadership, character, and compassion shaped our great city. His legacy is etched in the lives he protected, the hope he restored, the community he made safer each and every day, and the family and friends that he loved. Rocco grew up on Tacoma Avenue in North Buffalo, the middle of three brothers and a proud, hard-working family rooted in faith, service, and devotion to community. Those values guided his life and charted the course of his calling. At just 18 years old, he walked through the doors of the Buffalo Police Department as a cadet. He wasn't drawn to the badge for prestige or distinction. He answered the call out of duty, earning a reputation for trust and honesty. After 2 decades in uniform and a distinguished career serving and protecting the great city of good neighbors, Rocco retired, though anyone who knew him knew he would not stay away for long. In 1994, his lifelong friend, Mayor Anthony Masiello, called him back to serve, this time as Deputy Police Commissioner. 4 years later, he became the City of Buffalo's Police Commissioner. In that role, Commissioner Dina didn't just lead the department, he transformed it. He brought innovation and modernization to the department and streamlined precinct operations. He opened doors once closed, appointing the city's first African-American woman to serve as deputy commissioner, an act of leadership that strengthened both the department and our city. Among his proudest achievements was reopening Buffalo Police Athletic League, a program built on the belief that trust is forged not through authority, but through relationships. Through sports, mentorship, and guidance, PAL created a bridge between law enforcement and young people yearning for opportunity and connection. Today, it serves more than 20,000 children each year, a living testament to the enduring impact of Rocco's vision. For Commissioner Dina, public safety was about restoring hope, investing in youth, and strengthening the bond between community and those sworn to serve it. But beyond every title and every professional achievement stood the role he cherished most, that of husband, father, and grandfather. He met the love of his life, Anna Marie, at a hot dog stand at Crystal Beach, and the rest was history. For more than 50 years, they built a family grounded in love, laughter, and loyalty. Together, they raised 2 exceptional children, Rebecca and Rocco Jr., and delighted in the joy of 5 grandchildren, the light of their lives and the pride of their hearts. Rocco was a steadfast leader who was tough when duty demanded it and compassionate when humanity required it. Even after stepping out of public office, his mission never changed. Rocco founded RJD Security, growing it from a small startup into one of Western New York's most trusted security firms. In doing so, he continued what had always driven him, protecting people, supporting local businesses, and safeguarding the places that make community possible. We honor Commissioner Rocco Dina for the department he strengthened, the neighborhoods and the city that he made safer, and for reminding us what true leadership looks like. Service before self, strength without ego, and kindness without hesitation. Today, I ask my colleagues to join me in honoring his remarkable life. We offer our deepest condolences to the Dina family, who shared him so generously with all of us. May we strive to emulate his leadership with integrity, his service with humility, and his love and unwavering devotion to our community. On behalf of a grateful city of Buffalo, Western New York community, and nation, may Commissioner Rocco J. Dina rest in peace. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. The chair recognizes the gentleman from New York, Mr. Lawler, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to honor the life and legacy of Sidney Davidoff, a towering figure in New York's political life and a true son of the great city of New York, who passed away Sunday at the age of 86. Born in Brooklyn, Sid served 7 years as administrative assistant to Mayor John Lindsay. He went on to become one of New York's most respected government affairs attorneys. As founder of Davidoff, Hutcher, and Citron, he built a firm whose 50 years of work stands as part of his extraordinary legacy. A frequent lecturer at Yale and NYU and board member on countless city initiatives, Sid earned a distinction few can claim. He was respected on both sides of the aisle. But beyond the title, Sid Davidoff was a true New Yorker, brilliant, tough, generous, and kind. He worked right up to the end, always thinking about what more he could do for the city and state he loved. Today, we mourn his loss and celebrate his life. I extend my deepest condolences to his wife, Linda, and his family, and to all who knew and loved him, especially his colleagues at Davidoff, Hutcher, and Citron. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize and celebrate the outstanding career of George Gain, a dedicated educator, mentor, and longtime boys basketball coach at Tappan Zee High School in Orangetown, who recently announced his retirement after an extraordinary 22 years of leading the Dutchman. During his tenure, Coach Gain built one of the most respected basketball programs in the region, guiding his teams to an impressive 301 and 47 loss record, 4 Section 1 titles, 2 Rockland County championships, and the 2023 New York State Class A crown. His leadership, discipline, and passion for the game inspired not only his players, but the entire Tappan Zee community. In addition to his success as a coach, Coach Gain served as a physical education teacher at Tappan Zee, shaping generations of students with his commitment to excellence, integrity, and personal growth. May we commend Coach Gain for his years of service, mentorship, and dedication to young people, and may his next chapter be as fulfilling as the impact he left on his players, his school, and his community. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize and congratulate Tim Idoni of New Rochelle on his retirement after more than 40 years of extraordinary public service to Westchester County. Tim's career has been defined by a deep commitment to his community. As mayor of New Rochelle, he led the city in revitalization projects, creating thousands of jobs and breathing new life into the downtown. Over the last 2 decades as Westchester County Clerk, Tim modernized the office in ways that have saved taxpayers millions of dollars, made local government more efficient, and improved services for countless families. Beyond titles and offices, Tim has been a tireless advocate for affordable housing, open space, and community organizations throughout Westchester. His service leaves a lasting mark not just on New Rochelle, but on all of Westchester County. I thank Tim for his decades of dedication, his commitment to public service. He was a great colleague in government, and I congratulate him on his retirement and wish him and his family continued health and happiness in the years ahead. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the life of Terry Martin Hecker, who passed away in her home on October 20th, just weeks before her 93rd birthday. A Brooklyn native, Terry grew up with the lively spirit of 2 large Irish families. Her father's work brought the family to the Bear Mountain Inn, where Terry's earliest encounters included visiting athletes and politicians like Jackie Robinson. A graduate of Pratt Institute, Terry married and eventually settled in Nyack, New York, where she raised 5 children. Terry authored 2 best-selling novels, which brought her national recognition and led her to a long career in local politics. Terry served on various boards, including the Nyack Chamber of Commerce, and as village trustee before making history as the first female mayor of the village of Nyack, one of her proudest achievements being advocating for the creation of the Nyack Community Center. May God bless the memory of Terry Hecker and continue to comfort her family and friends during this time of loss. Our community will miss you. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize John Farley of Pearl River, who passed away this summer at the age of 84. John grew up in Rockland County. He served our nation proudly in the United States Navy and built a career as a member of Steamfitters Local 638 in New York City. But to those who knew him best, he was simply Pop. He had a quick wit, a love of sports, a gift for coaching. More than that, he had a way of seeing the best in people and encouraging them to see it in themselves. That's the mark he left on his family, his friends, and his community. John's legacy lives on in his children and grandchildren, and in the many lives he touched in Pearl River and beyond. May his memory be a blessing, and may we honor him by carrying forward the kindness and generosity he showed every day. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Chair recognizes the gentleman from New York, Mr. Latimer, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to acknowledge the celebration of the Reverend Troy DeCohen, senior pastor of the Mount Vernon Heights Congregational Church, in this year completing his 25th year of pastoral leadership. Reverend DeCohen has a distinguished clerical career, called to the ministry in 1988, active in churches in New Jersey and New York, approaching now his 4th decade. He holds master's degrees from Fordham University and Mercer University, and he has shown a skill and achievement in dealing with real-world congregational problems, substance abuse issues, conflict resolution, homelessness, HIV and AIDS, and mental illness. Complementing his pastoral service, he serves as Director of Housing Operations for the Westchester County Department of Social Services. He has been recognized with awards by governors, county executives, state and federal legislators, and organizations across the spectrum. Along with his wife, Reverend Viviana DeCohen, he has led his home congregation in worship, Bible study, and community outreach to those in need in the Mount Vernon and in surrounding communities. He serves as President Chair of the United Black Clergy of Westchester County. He is living every day Matthew 25 spiritual direction to show faith in the Lord by doing good for his people, including for the least of his brothers. Congratulations, Reverend DeCohen. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today with great concern over recent changes to the Department of Housing and Urban Development's Continuum of Care program. This program is one of the largest sources of resources, 900 units of housing in my district that is involved with funding to combat homelessness, especially for seniors, domestic violence victims, and people with disabilities. There's nearly 700 units of permanent housing involved in this program. In 2024, the Congress approved a 2-year funding cycle to promote greater program stability. However, last week, HUD announced a new funding competition with substantial changes that could delay funding awards for months. The announcement also slashes how much funding may be used for permanent housing. Such drastic changes could result in a significant reduction in services, forcing local partners to cease operations and re-expose hundreds of my constituents to homelessness. As this majority continues to pursue drastic cuts to affordable food and health care, it is critical that we protect access to housing. I urge the administration to immediately reconsider this decision and prevent a new wave of homelessness across the counties of Westchester, the Bronx, and elsewhere. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Washington, Mr. Baumgartner, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are nearing 1 week since the end of the needless 43-day-long Democrat government shutdown. That shutdown was a monumental waste of time that hurt a lot of people across the country. I am grateful that the families in Eastern Washington can now breathe easier, knowing their paychecks, benefits, and livelihoods are no longer being used as political bargaining chips. The House passed 3 appropriation bills providing full-year funding for agriculture, the FDA, military construction, and the legislative branch. I'm especially proud that 3 priorities I fought for were included in the agriculture appropriations bill. $1 million for Washington State University's ARS building project, $2 million for New Health Chewella's expansion and regional workforce center, and $1 million for Tri-State Health's family medicine residency program. These are meaningful wins for Eastern Washington families and our rural economy. Our budget also delivered more than $13 million for Fairchild Air Force Base, strengthening mission support and fueling operations to keep our nation secure. Had the vote gone differently, and the Democrats succeeded in pandering to their radical base, we might still be in a government shutdown, and these critical victories for Eastern Washington and the nation might never have happened. I am glad we're getting back to what matters, delivering results for the people we serve. Mr. Speaker, few moments as a member of Congress are more meaningful than helping a hero receive long overdue recognition. Recently, my office had the privilege of assisting Vietnam veteran John Gilman in securing the Silver Star Medal he earned more than 50 years ago, an honor long delayed but deeply deserved. On Veterans Day, I had the privilege of meeting Mr. Gilman at the Heroes Awards night in Spokane. The event, hosted by Heroes Homestead, was a remarkable celebration of service, honoring not only those who wore the uniform, but those who continue to serve our communities today. Surrounded by his family, friends, and fellow veterans, Mr. Gilman finally received the medal that reflected his courage and selflessness in Vietnam. Mr. Gilman of Airway Heights served valiantly in the American Division during the 1969 Tet Offensive. Amid intense combat near Pho Qua, South Vietnam, his company was ordered to relieve a friendly unit under fire. Though wounded in action, Mr. Gilman refused to fall back. He steadfastly manned his M60 machine gun and continued providing suppressive fire, even while receiving medical treatment. Thanks to his courage under fire, his unit closed with and ultimately destroyed the insurgent force. For these extraordinary acts, the Army approved Mr. Gilman for his Silver Star. Yet, despite that honor, he was never officially presented the award. Earlier this year, Mr. Gilman contacted my office. Through the persistent efforts of my staff, working hand in hand with Army Personnel Command, we confirmed that his Silver Star had been authorized decades ago, but never delivered. Last Tuesday night, more than 50 years after his acts of valor, Brigadier General Paul Sellers, Commanding General of the Washington Army National Guard, had the honor of presenting the Silver Star to Mr. Gilman. The Silver Star is the Army's third highest award for gallantry in combat, given only to those who display extraordinary heroism under fire. Mr. Gilman's story is a powerful reminder of the courage that defines our veterans and our nation's sacred duty to ensure their service is never forgotten. Congratulations, John Gilman, and thank you for your bravery, your sacrifice, and your continued example to us all. As we approach America's 250th birthday, let us honor veterans like John Gilman, not only with medals, but through our daily commitment to live up to the freedom they fought to defend. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman yields back. The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from the great state of Ohio, Ms. Sykes, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As families in Ohio's 13th congressional district get ready for the holiday season, I want to talk about something that is weighing on many of them. The cost of everyday life keeps going up, and people feel it every time they shop for groceries, pay their utility bills, fill up their gas tanks, or try to plan for the weeks ahead. Across Ohio's 13th district, people are telling me the same thing. Their paychecks are not stretching the way that they used to, and they are working harder and getting less in return. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, food costs have increased nearly 3% over the past year, and the cost of meat, poultry, fish, and coffee grew more than 5%. The Department of Agriculture expects grocery prices to rise again this year. The cost increases amount to grocery bills that are hundreds of dollars higher for less food. And this is compounded by the SNAP cuts in the One Big Ugly Bill and cuts to food banks all across this country. But it's not just food and groceries. Families are feeling the squeeze in multiple ways. Healthcare premiums, co-pays, and prescription costs have climbed, leaving families with difficult choices about their care. Energy bills from heating homes in winter to cooling them in the summer are also rising, stretching budgets even further. These are not small inconveniences. They shape every decision families make about what they can afford. As people question whether they can cover the basic, it affects how they plan their days, care for one another, and participate in their communities. Something as simple as sitting down together for a meal or planning a gathering can become harder to manage. These costs don't rise in a vacuum. The decisions made here in Washington shape the choices people face at home. When policies put pressure on working families instead of supporting them, the impact shows up in higher bills and tighter budgets. A strong economy is one that gives families the confidence to meet their needs and build toward the future. It starts with people who feel secure enough to gather, share a meal, and look ahead with some peace of mind. That's why I continue to fight for policies that put people first. I am working to lower healthcare costs. I am working to bring down everyday expenses, including energy, utilities, and food costs, and I'm committed to supporting the creation of good-paying jobs so families in Ohio's 13th district and all across the country can worry a little less and hope a lot more. As we enter this holiday season, we should remember what keeps our community strong: fairness, opportunity, and support for one another. So let us, as members of Congress, make choices that help families meet their needs and stay connected. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today I rise to recognize Eric Kuhl as the Champion of the Week for Ohio's 13th Congressional District. Eric, a freshman at Jackson High School, recently won the 2025 National Civics Bee. He competed against finalists from 38 other states in 5 rounds, including one in which he presented a societal problem and offered his suggestions for solving it. Eric discussed the healthcare system in the United States. Timely and appropriate, especially considering our current state of affairs. With this win comes a $100,000 college fund, which will go a long way to help him attend his dream school, Yale University. And Eric aspires to become a lawyer and ultimately landing an appointment as a justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. Mr. Speaker, this is not the first time I've come to the floor to recognize Eric's talents, nor is it the second. This is actually the 3rd time Eric has been recognized before this body. In 2023, he was the Congressional App Challenge winner for Ohio's 13th District when he was in middle school. His app, Care Civics, was designed to encourage young people to become civically engaged. He was inspired by his time studying for the Ohio Civics Bee, which he went on to win in 2024. Now just a high school freshman, he has come out on top at the national level, and I could not be more proud. I also had the honor of first meeting Eric at Jackson Memorial Middle School when he served as the Speaker of the Little Congress. Eric is a shining example of why Ohio's 13th Congressional District is known as the birthplace of champions. I look forward to all that he accomplishes in the future, and thank you, Eric, for your dedication to civics in the United States of America. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Klein, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize Opera Roanoke on the momentous occasion of its 50th anniversary. Founded in 1976 at the Southwest Virginia Opera Society by a group of dedicated volunteers, the company staged its first production of the Consul in 1978, and in 1991 became the fully professional organization we now know as Opera Roanoke. For 5 decades, it's been a cornerstone of cultural life in Roanoke and across Virginia's Blue Ridge, presenting compelling performances and fostering a broader appreciation for opera in Western Virginia. Over the years, the company has benefited from remarkable artistic leadership and the guidance of legendary mentors, such as Eleanor Stieber and Irene Dallas. A special thank you to the Board of Trustees who have contributed to the success of the opera: John Johnson, President; Krista Vanoy, immediate past President; Frank Giannini, Treasurer; Jim Dublinsky, Secretary; Isabel Ditzel, and Eric Monday. This anniversary season opened with Love and Sacrifice, a tribute to the heart of Opera Roanoke, which also marked the retirement of Maestro Stephen White, whose more than 20 years of service have profoundly shaped the company's artistic excellence. As Opera Roanoke looks ahead to its 50th anniversary season and upcoming production of Hansel and Gretel, I congratulate the organization, its artists, its leadership, and its supporters on 5 decades of achievement. May the next 50 be just as inspiring. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize Mr. Robert Holland of Roanoke, Virginia, who will celebrate his 100th birthday this Thanksgiving Day, November 27th, 2025. Mr. Holland is a proud World War II veteran who enlisted in the United States Army at just 18 years old. He spent his 19th birthday in France, serving as a staff sergeant with the 381st Battery. He worked as a powderman and also served in supply operations, roles vital to our mission's success in Europe. After the war, Mr. Holland returned to his home state of West Virginia before settling in the Hollins area of Roanoke County in 1950 to be near family. He went on to enjoy a long and honorable career with the General Electric Company and has been a valued member of the Roanoke community ever since. As he marks a century of life, service, and devotion to family and country, I'm proud to join his loved ones and neighbors in wishing Mr. Robert Holland a very happy 100th birthday and in thanking him for his steadfast service to our nation. Mr. Speaker, for the first time in Warren County's history, a middle school FFA chapter has earned the highest honor possible from the National FFA Organization. Receiving the National Chapter Award with a gold 3-star rating places Warren County Middle School's FFA among the very best agricultural education programs in the nation. A testament to the hard work, leadership, and community spirit of our students, these young people are not only learning about agriculture, but also taking initiative to serve their neighbors, strengthen their school, and build a brighter future. Led by advisor Lynn Phillips and officers Harley Brooks, Madison Ballard, Bella Kaplan, Allie Englert, Camberly Lockhart, Cadence Flint, Alexis Clark, Silas Dutton, and Lex Flores, alongside all other members, planned and carried out projects that range from food drives to environmental cleanups, demonstrating that middle school students, when given the tools and the trust, can rise to extraordinary heights. Mr. Speaker, fewer than 10% of FFA chapters nationwide receive this distinction. Warren County students have set a new standard of excellence, and they remind us that the seeds of leadership, once planted, can grow into something that lifts up an entire community. I'm proud to honor them today. Mr. Speaker, socialism has left a long trail of suffering across the globe. Wherever it has taken root, it has brought economic collapse, political oppression, and the deterioration of freedom. Despite this record, we're seeing a troubling rise in socialist rhetoric here at home, especially among younger Americans and in major cities like New York City, where these ideas are becoming increasingly mainstream. At the same time, support for the free market principles that built our nation has declined. This shift endangers the core values handed down by our founding fathers: liberty, personal responsibility, and limited government. We cannot ignore these warning signs. We cannot allow the failures of socialist systems abroad or here in the United States to be rewritten, dismissed, or forgotten. That's why House Republicans are set to vote on a resolution that firmly rejects socialism in all its forms and reaffirms our commitment to the American ideals of freedom and self-governance. The American people deserve to know where their elected officials stand. House Republicans will choose freedom, and we will stand for the principles that are the foundation of this great nation. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
The gentleman yields. The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from California, Ms. Rivas, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are at a unique moment in our history. A technology straight out of science fiction is now becoming an increasingly ubiquitous aspect of daily life. Artificial intelligence is here, and it's reshaping nearly every aspect of modern life: how we work, how we learn, and how we communicate. AI-generated content is becoming more prevalent in healthcare, housing, education, entertainment, and even public service. If we do not have a standardized plan to become proficient in AI literacy today, we will not be ready to handle the challenges that AI can pose in the future. This is why I'm introducing the AI for All Act. The AI for All Act develops a national strategy for the federal government to improve AI literacy in education. By understanding how AI has evolved and is expected to evolve, we can be better prepared to embrace the opportunities AI presents and address the challenges that can and will arise in the future. As lawmakers, we have a duty to ensure emerging technologies like AI are used responsibly, safely, and effectively, so it does not harm public safety or infringe on our rights. The AI for All Act allows us to fulfill those duties and ensure that the United States will continue to be a global leader in AI. With strong AI literacy and education guidelines, we can lead with clarity, govern with integrity, and ensure the innovative breakthroughs AI brings can continue serving the public good. Mr. Speaker, 3 months ago, I shared the story of Benjamin Guerrero Cruz, a senior at Reseda High School who was detained by ICE while walking his dog. Benjamin is an older brother, a loving son, and a valued member of the community. He is a child. For the past 3 months, Benjamin has been in ICE detention at the Adelanto Detention Facility. ICE has been forcing his family to live a nightmare. Benjamin was transferred between 2 states and 3 detention facilities in 24 hours without his family knowing. If that was happening to Benjamin, imagine who else it's happening to. That is why I introduced the Inform Act. My bill holds ICE accountable for the nightmare they are forcing families like Benjamin's to live through. Many immigrant families in my district do not know the whereabouts of their loved ones after they are detained by ICE. I have been urging ICE leadership to answer for their chaotic, inconsistent, and cruel decision-making processes that have torn apart families across the country. My bill respects the dignity of immigrant families and promotes government transparency. I will continue showing up to detention facilities and working with my colleagues to hold ICE accountable, promote government transparency, and respect the dignity of immigrant families. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Kansas, Mr. Mann, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor Sergeant Scott William Hyman, a loyal husband, a devoted father, a beloved son, and an invaluable member of the Hays, Kansas community. Scott paid the ultimate price, sacrificing his life for the community that he loved and served. On Sunday, September 28, 2025, Scott's watch ended far too soon when he was shot and killed while responding to a domestic violence call. On behalf of Kansas and the Big First District, I would like to say thank you, Scott, for your service. Scott served with the Hays Police Department for 9 years. Throughout his time, he served on the Special Situation Response Team, High-Tech Crime Unit, Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, and the Honor Guard. Scott took pride in wearing the Hays Police Department uniform. He was never above serving the community he lived in, whether his task was reading books to students at the library or responding to the most dangerous threats that posed a risk to his neighbors. There was no task too big or too small in his eyes. Honor and I mourn with the Hays community, and I continue to pray for them as they come to terms with this tragedy. We especially pray for Scott's wife, Beth, his beautiful children, Victoria and Patrick, and all his loved ones whom he left behind. The Bible tells us in Psalms 34 that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. As the reality of Scott's untimely passing sets in, I ask that the Lord would be close to his family, wrap his arms around this grieving community, and provide comfort. Well done, Sergeant Hyman. May you rest in peace, and thank you for your service and for giving the ultimate sacrifice. Mr. Speaker, this Thursday, America will celebrate National Rural Health Day. As a representative of 60 primarily rural counties and the congressional district with the most critical access hospitals than any other district in the country, I understand full well the importance of adequate, quality health care for all communities. Earlier this year, I proudly supported the Working Families Tax Cut, which established the Rural Health Transformation Program. This legislation made the single largest investment into rural health care in nearly 2 decades and will be life-changing for the men and women who call rural communities like the ones I represent home. The $50 billion in Rural Health Transformation Program will better position rural health care facilities to embrace innovative technologies while improving the way health care is delivered, strengthening health outcomes, and ensuring the health of rural Americans reaches its full potential. The quality of care that Americans receive should not and cannot depend on their zip code. By investing in the Rural Health Transformation Program and putting safeguards around the Medicaid program to guarantee it serves the vulnerable patients it was intended to serve, this Republican majority has taken historic strides to strengthen rural health care. Rural communities are the backbone of America, and I'm proud that I have supported this legislation to ensure that they have access to the highest quality care. The National Rural Health Month, this National Rural Health Month, I recognize and thank the dedicated rural health care providers, hospitals, service providers, clinics, and community health centers that serve as pillars in providing health services and life-saving care to Kansans in rural America and work to ensure that they receive the care that they deserve. Keep up the hard work and thank you again for all that you do for your neighbors in rural America. Happy National Rural Health Month. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields. The chair recognizes the gentleman from New Mexico, Mr. Vasquez, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in defense of the frontier spirit that is core to the American identity. I rise today to urge my colleagues to vote no on Senate Joint Resolution 80 and House Joint Resolution 131, two proposals that would forever alter the coastal plain of the Arctic Refuge and the special areas of the Western Arctic in the great state of Alaska. Let me tell you a little bit about this special place, a place in which I've had the privilege to spend time. The Arctic Refuge, the homeland of the Gwich'in and Inupiat people, offers unmatched, truly wild fishing and hunting opportunities for all Americans. It is the only national wildlife refuge that protects an entire Arctic ecosystem, and it stands as a profound source of pride for this nation. It's the only national wildlife refuge that protects an entire Arctic ecosystem, and it stands as a profound source of pride for us. These lands, the birthing and calving grounds of the porcupine caribou herd, have been at the center of national debate for more than a century, ever since Republican President Theodore Roosevelt established the National Wildlife Refuge System and dedicated himself to protecting wild places and the wildlife that depend on them. These lands are where Americans hunt caribou, grizzly bear, and Dall sheep, where Americans trap wolverines, and where anglers can catch their first Arctic char. Most importantly, these lands have provided sustenance to the Gwich'in and Inupiat peoples since time immemorial. And for the last century, bipartisan lawmakers, including both Republicans and Democratic presidents, have agreed to protect this place, safeguarding it from destructive development with a firm resolve and a desire to leave something behind for the next generation. That same commitment to conservation has been carried on by bipartisan leaders in Congress for generations. But today, this tradition of conservation is being threatened by a careless proposal to roll back established protections for our wildlife, our waters, and our public lands, threatening indigenous livelihoods and sovereignty, the recreational and scientific value of these lands, and an iconic symbol of American wilderness. I believe that in this body we must preach hope and possibility, that we must defend our values and the American way of life that has been meticulously built over centuries, and both parties must work together to protect the things we love. These two proposals before you are misguided. This chamber should not deepen the chaos that it's already created. Instead, we should be working together to pass legislation that resolves land management conflicts and restores stability to our public lands and our planning system. We should also adequately fund our land management agencies. That is why, as a hunter, an angler, and someone who cares deeply about our nation's incomparable system of public lands and wildlife habitat, I can't support the reckless destruction of the Arctic tundra and the coastal plain. For the many private interests that have sought to exploit these sacred lands, it would be much easier if these species and tribes never existed. It'd be much easier for them if the last remaining muskox hadn't survived the Ice Age, or if the porcupine caribou herd simply went extinct, just to add a few dollars to their pockets today, without giving a damn about tomorrow. The truth is, in my district back home in New Mexico, the Permian Basin is a domestic energy powerhouse, fueling America's energy independence and bolstering New Mexico's economy. But there are some places that ought to be left alone because their quality, their history, and their identity to us as Americans is far too valuable to be measured on a balance sheet. And now, much to my dismay, this administration has already issued an executive order to rescind the Coastal Plain leasing program, and the Department of Interior has already done just that. Given that the administration has already taken action to overturn responsible management plans, these bills only make it more challenging to manage these special lands. It will also expose any future decisions related to oil and gas in the refuge to significant legal uncertainty. This is a losing proposal. Simply put, it's bad legislation, no matter what side of the issue you stand on. But if, like me, you still believe in bipartisanship and revere the greats like Teddy Roosevelt, who fought to protect special places like America's Arctic, and you dream that someday you or one of your children can hunt wild ptarmigan on the coastal plain, catch an Arctic char on the Canning River, or harvest caribou in the Brooks Range, you should vote against these bills and honor the voices of the indigenous communities and American citizens that depend on this land for survival. From New Mexico to the Arctic, people who live in small communities take care of themselves, and they want to keep it that way. Surely anyone who represents a rural district in this Congress can appreciate that. So I encourage my colleagues to look at this landscape, to examine these bills and their impacts before you vote, to see the value of the Arctic and its worth to all Americans, not to simply brush this off as a party line vote. I urge my colleagues to vote no on House Joint Resolution 131. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
Gentleman yields. The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Minnesota, Ms. Fischbach, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to recognize and honor the life and legacy of Bradley Schenk, a devoted husband, father, Marine, Master Sergeant in the Air National Guard, and law enforcement officer. Brad served his country in the U.S. Marine Corps and the Air National Guard and dedicated 16 years to law enforcement, including a decade on the Red River Valley SWAT team. His colleagues knew him for his courage, integrity, and commitment to keeping his community safe. 9 years ago, Brad faced brain cancer with extraordinary resilience. He turned his struggle into inspiration, sharing his journey in his memoir, No Easy Way Out. Above all, Brad was a family man. He leaves behind his wife, Sarah, their 3 children, Colby, Bentley, and Mackenzie, his parents and siblings, and his entire military and law enforcement families. They carry on the legacy of strength and hope. Brad's life was defined by service, resilience, and joy. We honor his memory today and extend our deepest condolences to his family, friends, and community. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the life of Ed De La Hunt, a pioneering broadcaster whose voice and vision shaped northern Minnesota for nearly 7 decades. Ed and his wife, Carol, founded KPRM Radio in Park Rapids in 1962. His familiar voice on the program Coffee Time and his Sunday night music shows became part of daily life for countless listeners. Beyond the microphone, Ed was an engineer, mentor, and builder. He trained and inspired generations of broadcasters. His dedication to local radio, his commitment to technical excellence, and his belief in the power of community storytelling left an incredible mark on Minnesota broadcasting. Ed leaves behind a legacy of service through the airways and through his family. Today, we honor his career and the joy he brought to listeners across Minnesota. Mr. Speaker, I rise to congratulate the Holly girls volleyball team on being the 2025 AA state champions. The Nuggets came back from a 2-set deficit to win 3-2. This year's win sealed the back-to-back championships for this team. On behalf of the 7th District of Minnesota, congratulations, and we are proud of you. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate the Marshall's girls volleyball team on being the 2025 AAA state champs. This is Marshall's 10th championship, the most in state history, the first program in Minnesota to win double-digit championships. Congratulations to the players and the coaches on this huge accomplishment. Mr. Speaker, I yield.
The gentlewoman yields. The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from New Mexico, Ms. Stansberry, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to stand with truth and justice, to stand with every survivor of sexual assault, and to demand the release of the Epstein files now. And to say to the one man on planet Earth who has the power to do so, Mr. President, it is time to release the files. Today we vote on a resolution to release these files, but we have already subpoenaed them, and the president has refused to comply, engaged in a months-long cover-up right before our very eyes, threatening and pressuring members of Congress and even calling his own allies traitors and this legislation a hostile act. Well, Mr. President, the irony is not lost on us that such desperate attempts to evade accountability are at the heart of the matter itself, as the Epstein case is at its core, its dirty, rotten core, about rich and powerful men who abuse the system to avoid accountability, and who engaged in unspeakable crimes and believed that they could do anything to any woman or any little girl and get away with it because they knew their friends in powerful places would protect them, or they could simply buy their way out of the justice system. Well, we are here today to stand up with the survivors and say, time is up. We demand accountability. Now, it is also not lost on me that I am standing in this chamber, in this seat of power from which wars have been launched and the fates of millions have hung, a chamber where in the nearly 250 years of this great nation, only 3% of the people who have ever stood here on this floor have been women. And that is why we must stand up, why we must demand accountability, why we are not saying pretty please, because we are engaged in a criminal investigation of criminal behavior in a justice system that has failed women and girls who were raped and who were abused, and the powerful people who never were held to account. And so we are not, Mr. President, as you have asked us, just going to move on. We will continue to pursue justice to the end. So let me tell you about this investigation, about the evidence that has come in just in the last week. Documents produced by the Epstein estate, including over 1,600 mentions of you, Mr. President. In emails, court documents, and statements, a lawsuit by a woman accusing Donald Trump of rape at Jeffrey Epstein's house, whether it happened or not, a sexual assault suit against Epstein in which Donald Trump appears to have been subpoenaed, served, and deposed, sworn statements and court documents from a 16-year-old that was recruited at Mar-a-Lago and then raped and groomed, not only by Jeffrey Epstein, but his rich and powerful friends. Statements from Epstein himself, who said Trump knew about the girls. In fact, Trump, by his own admission, he knew that Epstein and Maxwell were recruiting young girls from Mar-a-Lago. Statements that Trump was at Epstein's house, including with girls, in which Epstein bragged about having pictures and passing a woman to Trump, and noted that Trump spent hours with one of the victims and was the dog who hadn't barked. These files also include financial transactions between Epstein and Trump, discussions of financial affairs, potential money laundering, including in real estate deals, as well as an admission by Jeffrey Epstein himself that he was facing a mandatory minimum of 10 years in federal prison, but yet the DOJ failed to prosecute him. And statements by Epstein that he believes that Donald Trump was involved in the case. So I say to the American people, there is a mountain of evidence in front of your very eyes. Believe your eyes. It is right there in front of us. And Mr. President, let me say this to you. You can run, but you cannot hide, because the survivors know what happened. And to every woman and little girl who has wept or felt shame or believed that you were alone or that the system had failed you, to every parent who has feared the absolute worst, and to every survivor who believed the system was rigged against them, know that you are not alone. We see you. We are fighting for you.
Gentlelady's time has expired.
And we will
Members are
not,
reminded to direct their remarks to the chair and not a perceived viewing audience, and to refrain from engaging in personalities against the president. Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the chair declares the House in recess until noon today.